What's up, Leafs fans? Welcome back to Leafs Digest. We're breaking down the Toronto Maple Leafs defeating the St. Louis Blues 6-5, moving to 24-9-3 on the season. An absolute whirlwind of a game from start to finish. It was a weird one. I was looking, honestly, let's tie this into some of the betting markets here that we were looking at. Pre-game, I was looking at one of the numbers that jumped out to me was the team scoring first wins the game. Yes was minus money. It was like minus 240. No was plus 190 something. And I looked at it for a little bit and I just got scared because I felt like the Leafs might jump ahead early. And if they did, I didn't want to be rooting against them for my no bet to hit. And I wanted to be riding the Leafs. So I stayed away from it. Lo and behold, the Leafs fall behind early in the game and they end up coming back to win this one. But I mean, let's start from the jump here. You go down 1-0 right away, and it was a tough goal to happen. Ryan O'Reilly kind of gets in on a breakaway, and it results from a Matthews miscue on defense where he doesn't pick up O'Reilly. He sneaks in on Jack Campbell and scores a breakaway goal, and the Leafs are in a bad position. It's looking dark. St. Louis has been 12-0-1 in their last 13 games. They have been one of the hottest, one of the best teams in the NHL. They're a good team all around. They've got good players, a good defensive core, and Binnington, when he is hot, he is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. You cut to the bench at the camera, you see Sheldon Keefe kind of getting in Matthews' ear a little bit. He gives him a little bit of the business, lets him know, hey, that was your guy that came in and scored. We're down 1-0 here early on a road trip. And the whole team responds. We score 3 straight to take the lead to 3-1. And then from that point on, it just became even more of a gong show of a game. Goody, all around, what did you make of this one? How did you take from the Leafs blowing a 3-1 lead to tying the game to being down again and then fighting back? Like, just your general feel of the game. I just want to know where you sit on this one.
Well, I'm going to start by saying I'm happy it took the over. We put that in the betting preview and it delivered. Yeah. So I'll start off by saying that, but I'm really happy that the Leafs, they were able to ride the ebbs and flows of this game. I use this expression a lot in basketball. I say it's a game of runs, but really any sport is just a battle of momentum. So it's happy to see them take dives as well as spikes in their trajectory in the game. And you hang on through all of it. So that's good to see. You outshoot the St. Louis Blues. In my opinion, you kind of outwork them a little bit too. So I'm happy to see them get rewarded with a W because we've had some weird games from, losing the right way to winning the wrong way. It's been a weird stretch of games. So to see us figure it out on the road feels pretty good right now. And it was a weird one to win it, like a real weird one. But hey, when things fall in your favor, you take it, and ultimately got to do the right things to set yourself up for good fortune to strike. You can't just, win a game by fluke. I know Makhayev's goal was a little weird there at the end, but still, you put yourself in a tie game situation after you tie it up with a clutch goal for Matthews. I'm really happy with the fight from the guys and staying the course.
Yeah, it's just, you're right. Like, it's a weird one to watch. And in this run against Colorado, Vegas, Arizona, and then into tonight against St. Louis, this has really, really amplified the games you lost and you shouldn't have and games you won that you shouldn't have, right? And against Colorado, it's kind of a teeter-totter 50-50. Could have gone either way. And in the end, you're looking at it going, well, we blew a 4-1 lead and you lose in overtime, but for 3.5 periods, we played incredible. And then you look at Vegas and you go, okay, wait a minute. We were up and then we were tied and then we sneak away with one in overtime. And in Arizona, let's be honest. I mean, we had some people commenting in the postgame, after the postgame video saying garbage game. And then we had people saying other things, and just, I genuinely still believe, in watching that game back, watching highlights, whatever, I still seriously believe we dominated Arizona from start to finish. That's what that was. I agree. Like, it was a total mauling of Arizona, and just Vejmelka took over in 20 career games, and the guy steals one. It happens every now and then, but there's no complaints really from the other end of the game. Now tonight, this is one where Sheldon Keefe is going to look at this and just go, where do I start? We go down, we're up 3-1, then we're down again. And then we're tied and we're up, and then we win the game, and we're scoring Patty Kane's Stanley Cup final OT winner type goals where nobody except the ref knows it's in. And I mean, that's what that was, from goal line essentially, right? Sneaks by. But Just both goaltenders have a tough night. And I do want to dial in on this because one of the things we've kind of talked about all year, and we've been the very first people to go ahead and praise Jack Campbell for how incredible he's been and what he's done for this team. Tonight is genuinely the first night, and I don't say this to harp on Jack Campbell or say, hey, there's a problem here, but just to point it out and kind of be transparent in it all. Tonight's the first night I look at Jack Campbell and say, yeah, that wasn't a good Jack Campbell game. That was a tough one.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you definitely admit to yourself he could have been better. And coming into this season, even probably up until 15 games ago, he only had one, maybe two games where he allowed more than 4 regulation goals scored on him. He's just been lights out at an unprecedented level. And that stat might be wrong, but it's really close, whatever it is. Jack Campbell's been virtually flawless as a Maple Leaf. But you are getting to a point where you start to see him a bit more in a human light. And it's not just this game. Games leading up to this even, I've been like, okay, Jack Campbell's a good goalie. He's not superhuman. He's not going to carry you to the playoffs. As much as he's already a surprising story, it goes a little bit further to act like he is a guy that can just single-handedly punch you into the playoffs. No, he's human, and we're starting to see that. So in some regards, I think it's a good reality check for everyone here that you can't take comfort in a goalie standing on his head constantly. It's a reality check that if you allow high, I guess, what should I say? High valued scoring chances, they're going to go in, right? Jack Campbell's not going to be there every single time. So it's good that you get a game where, okay, Jack Campbell doesn't play perfect, but you dig deep and get a win. And like you said, you were up, you were down, you were tied, everything in between. You ride the ebbs and flows and find a way to get a W, even if it comes on a Patty Kane Stanley Cup winning type goal where everyone's looking around for 5 seconds before we start celebrating.
Yeah. Well, here's one other thing I want to touch on from tonight, and it's kind of an interesting thought about how the game goes, and it can kind of lead into both of us. I know we have the same Austin Matthews play of the day for this one, but Kasha, Hall, and Richie out. And I want to know your genuine opinion on this, because I'll tell you mine after we can talk about it. But you look at those 3 names, 2 of them you're probably looking at saying, thank God.
Yeah.
Right? Nick Ritchie and Justin Hall being out of this lineup tonight. And I mean, you and I have supported Nick Ritchie for as long as we possibly could. You were critical on him early, but it wasn't in a, hey, we shouldn't have signed this guy way. It was a, hey, cautionary, let's be aware. There's a reason that 2 teams have let him go at this point kind of way.
Yeah.
And you had every single right to do that. And you've been proven right in your opinion on that. And I full credit to you. But we both supported, okay, maybe there's something here. Well, 35 games into the season, or 36 games into the season, sorry, we know that there isn't. And a guy like that goes onto the COVID protocol. He goes on there with Justin Hall, and in many ways, it's a blessing in disguise to have those guys out of your lineup. And let's not focus on Nick Ritchie here, because he's a guy that we've put out videos on before, and if you want to hear us talk about him, you can jump into that. But having Justin Hall out of this lineup gives a guy like Timothy Liljegren an opportunity to step into a more important role. And I mean, let's just do it right now. Let's get into our Austin Matthews play of the day, because I know we both have the same one. Timothy Liljegren scores his first goal of his NHL career, and man, that thing was an absolute rocket. And I know it's his first goal, and Justin Hall in his career has more NHL goals, but that goal right there is a goal Justin Hall will never, ever, ever score in his NHL career, ever.
No, you're completely right. I mean, not to sidetrack from what we're talking about, the Liljegren goal, but the Hall situation. Remember, he had a 2-goal game. I think it was maybe his 3rd game with the Leafs or something. He was wowing us right away. But the 2-goal game.
No, I know what it was. He scored in his. I think he scored in his first and his second game. I think that's what it was.
Okay, yeah, you might be right. So either way, Justin Hall came out firing, right? But you're right. Even at his best, Justin Hall never looked good. And that's why, man, I hate to toot my horn on this, because I just sound like I told you so. I told you so.
No, toot it. Let's go.
All right. Okay. So basically with Justin Hall, even when he was at his best, I was like, a lot of this seems to be, coincidental, survival based. He's not actually earning it 90% of the time. Yes, there's an element of puck luck here. Of course, he's an NHL player, so he's got bare minimum skill to bury on opportunities like this. But never once was I like, wow, the eye test is off the charts. And given his situation and how long he's been in the A, I was just like, Why are we paying this guy? Why are we protecting this guy? All this stuff. We got a stud like Timothy Liljegren who can just absolutely rifle that thing, bar down in an important game for you and offer you way more speed, way more youth, just a bunch of things to build around, more so than you can ever do with Justin Hall at this point. So yeah, you're completely right. That goal was beautiful, and having Hall watch it from the press box was, or I guess not from the press box, COVID protocols, but you get what I mean. Having him out is a hidden blessing
From the
right now
hotel
because,
room.
yes, exactly, from the hotel room. But it is a nice thing to have him out in a weird way, because obviously it'll clear up the path for a guy like Liljegren, who I think it's not even debatable. Justin Hall doesn't belong on this team. He's not cut out for the NHL right now, especially not on a contending roster. And seeing Liljegren rifle that thing tonight really put an exclamation point on that observation.
Yeah, and I mean, we look at it earlier too in this year, and you look at, I remember there was a time where both you and I were looking at this going, man, who do you even sit, Dermott or Hall? But like, we'd love to sit both of them, but one of them's got to go out. And we went back and forth between, it's got to be one, it's got to be the other. I don't know which, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to a point where they both sit and they kind of battle for who's worse. At no point was it, okay, who's the guy who can play above the other guy? It was just like one of them goes in the lineup and they're significantly worse than the other guy, and he comes out because it's like, well, you're worse than the other guy was right now, so put him in. And it was just a battle of the dumpster fires at that point. And then it just became, and I don't know if this is the proper way to use this term, but kind of what happened here was water found its level. And Justin Hall has proved to be the pylon. He's proved to be night in, night out on a consistent basis, the worst player of those defensemen. And then him going out, as you mentioned, allows a guy like Timothy Liljegren, a younger guy, to come in. And when he makes the mistakes, now if he gradually does this over his career and he doesn't learn and he doesn't get it and he doesn't develop and mature and figure some things out, yes, for sure, you look at it and go, well, are you better than what Justin Hall brought? Maybe not in the future, but right now you look at it and go, you're a younger guy who skates better, passes better, shoots better, makes less defensive mistakes. You're just as strong. You probably hit more. Why wouldn't you have that guy in your lineup? And then you see an opportunity like that tonight. And I mean, in all honesty, all night long, the puck followed him around the ice. He was all over the puck in the offensive zone, creating chances, creating plays, moving his feet, using it to his advantage. And he had his head on a swivel. He has better offensive ability, instinct, skill than Justin Hall has ever had and ever will have. Yeah. And as a young guy who can continue to develop that and develop those skills in his bag, why wouldn't you give that guy every single chance you can at the NHL level?
Exactly. And you know what? I think there's this weird thing with the Leafs where there's like a stigma against undersized dynamic talent, because we've had a lot of it. And Liljegren still, even though he's a defenseman, falls into that category. But Justin Hall comes around with a skill set that I think like paying him was almost a message to others that we reward defense and doing your job. Like, and I think that...
Well, I just want to jump in on it, and I'll let you expand on it, but I want to jump in for you further. And I think that you're right, but I genuinely think that where the transition became is that we had a set of management who believed that strongly. Then we had the transition to the Dubas-Shanahan era, where it was rewarding smaller, skilled players, guys who played the softer game. And I think they took a lot of public scrutiny for it. And I think that they saw a lack of success, and in their mind, they see a guy like Justin Hall and they go, And now I don't think they're kind of reading the Toronto Star every day and going, wow, man, this guy's right. I need to do what he's doing. But they hear it. They hear what the public's saying, and they're going to look at it and say, okay, maybe this does need an impact. And now they overvalue Justin Hall. And I kind of think that's where that's where that ties into your point. I think there was the kind of a transition from both ways.
Exactly. Like everything kind of like, you know, it's interesting, like water finding its level, kind of, you can use that expression here as well, where it's like, you know, we go one direction very hard, then we come back to, but we got to integrate some defensive sound play as well. And I think that Justin Hall brought that in, you know, for a little bit there. And we were just so humbled by his approach and his story, and so blown away by the fact that he was surviving that, you know, we wanted to, you know, believe the hype and seal the moment with a contract and all these things. It was just, I don't care play dynamic hockey. I know that you needed a bit more grit. We've worked on that in certain ways, but Timothy Liljegren fully earns that spot. And even at this point, I was going to mention it earlier, but Travis Dermott, he's playing really good. I mean, really good is a relative term, but relative to what we were seeing earlier this season, I think Dermott's turned his game around and he's belonging at this point in time. So I think that Justin Hall is the odd man out clearly at this point.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on with the rest of the game here, we got our Austin Matthews play of the day, the Timothy Liljegren goal. That was just a beautiful play set up by Pierre Engvall and Travis Dermott. As you mentioned, he has been playing pretty well as of recent, so shout out Timothy Liljegren, first career NHL goal, and it was a beautiful one. Just a one-timer, as you mentioned. It was bar down, I mean post-bar. It was post-crossbar in. It was just nasty goal all around. Nice screen by Ilya Mikheyev in front, but kind of moving on here. One guy, I know he's you and I, one of our favorite players at this point. He's a guy we both think very highly of. He gets a goal tonight. Michael Bunting gets himself another one. And you look at that whole play developing. Austin Matthews is playing against Ryan O'Reilly, who is one of, if not the best centerman in the NHL. And you have to find a way to get creative against a guy like that because Matthews isn't the best face-off taker that the Leafs have. And we know that. And he's not going to win like a significant amount like Jason Spezza or like David Kampf, where you look at them and they take a huge amount of faceoffs and they're winning a significant number of them. But he's still pretty good. But going up against a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, you can expect a lot more losses. Well, on that Bunting goal, that's where the creativity comes in. You see him switch the bottom hand over. He pulls back, and he still at the same time manages to take a shot on goal. Bunting going to the net, grabs the rebound, puts it past Binnington there. All around that play is just a great play. But the one guy I really want to key in on here is Michael Bunting because, man, this guy continues to prove his value to this team. $950K a year for this year and next, playing on a top line in Toronto that's going to be a contending team. This guy is a guy who honestly is one of my favorite players on the Leafs team at this point in time.
It's all about willingness, man. He's got the the skill's there, but it's the IQ and the hustle that does it for him. And hockey's a finesse game. And at the NHL level, if you don't have a good stick, you won't last. So he at very least has that. But what wows us about him is 100% the desire and the IQ, because those are off the charts when you watch Bunting. And even we look at his numbers, I mean, for the sample size, he's so efficient. And I love the fact that we found someone for that money that you just mentioned to go and play top line minutes and fit in. Like, I'm not going to say he excels, but fit in. He really is. I'll come back to this. We haven't said it in the past while, but he's like the closest thing I think you could have found to a Zack Hyman replacement that was available this offseason. And you find it at an absolute fraction of the rate. And obviously Zack Hyman is really good. He's proven that it wasn't a fluke. He's a really solid player, especially when supporting stars. But Michael Bunting could very well be on the same road as well. So I'm a big fan of what Michael Bunting's doing. You're right. That goal was awesome. And this kid won't stop. I think he'll continue to build on the momentum he's got. And we always cheer for him too, because he's a Toronto guy. But beyond that, he's been very effective and very affordable.
Well, and the other thing too is that he brings more than the skill set that he has. And I strongly believe he has a higher skill set than Zack Hyman. I just do. I think that's the reality. I think his offensive skill is higher than what Zack Hyman's does. Was.
It's close. But yeah, you could make that argument. I don't know. Hyman, I mean, the goals he scores really are like the goalie's probably looking at him for only half of them. So there's that. But similar categories of player, though, I guess is where I'm going with this. And the role that we've assigned is very similar. And I'm just happy to see Bunting doing it for like $6-7 million less.
Yeah, honestly. But then even just beyond that, he is a rat. He's a guy who stirs things up. You saw it with the Torrey Krug situation there, where Krug kind of jumps on him. But it's unreal to see him do what he does, and then to be able to contribute like that. And now another guy that I want to get into here, kind of before we close this one out, moving towards our grades of the game and our general takeaway of it all. Mitch Marner, he finally gets back into the lineup. And he does two significant things here. Now, the first one is obviously his goal. I don't know if that thing was deflected or not, but it was just kind of a weird one sneaking by Binnington the way that it did. But then the other one is finally contributing on the power play, and it's to the Austin Matthews goal that ties the game up at 5-5. And the other note
Gorgeous.
there, just quickly to give it, is Austin Matthews now goes to 10 consecutive road games with the goal. He set the franchise record with 9 consecutive games, moving it now to 10, just giving himself a little bit more of a gap. And he's got 2 more road games coming up, so we'll see what he can do there. But he also cashes the second part of our bet tonight. Leafs over 3.5. Austin Matthews anytime, so we go 2 for 2 on the night on those. But Marner setting him up and finally contributing on this power play, it's kind of a bit of a sigh of relief. And it goes against everything I've been going with, where I'm saying, hey, get this guy off of there, because he goes out of the lineup. The power play goes stale for a couple games. He comes back and he sets one up beautifully. What did you think about his presence in the lineup tonight?
I liked it, man. I'm happy to have him back, and he's got a little bit of jump in his step too. And that goal was the setup was gorgeous. He faked almost the wraparound, demanded the attention on the other side of the net, and then at that last second feeds it back to Matthews, who's there to rifle it home. Like, that's vintage stuff, and his creativity was on full display. And it's interesting. You talk about the power play and how, we say one thing, then this happens. And it's just kind of reverse logics flying around here. But, that's the sport of hockey to a certain extent. Sometimes it's,
well,
it's
the sport of hockey
it's,
and the Leafs.
Yeah, there you go, specifically. And it's accurate, Phil. Like, that's why I'm kind of on that bandwagon of keep your best player on the power play and figure it out that way, rather than trying to find a temporary solution that'll inevitably lead to another stalemate. And at a certain point, though, like, bro, I know this was game 100 of him not scoring a goal on the power play. Like, it's getting out of hand. So I understand we do have to draw the line somewhere. And I'm not saying one thing or the other here, but to see him come into the lineup tonight, at least get his hands dirty on a goal. I mean, he was the reason that goal was scored, even though it won't be him as the goal scorer. I was happy with Marner. And maybe this will be a refreshing start for him. I mean, even when you look at his points this season, it's not that bad. We just demand high things in a Marner because it's that high pay grade. And hopefully he's coming back with the right mindset tonight. I mean, it looked good. He looked good.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, he gets a goal. It's his first goal since November 21st. He finally contributes to that power play. So it's good to see. Maybe he can get rocking here and help Matthews out, even just push that goal pace that he's on even further now. He's now 1 back of Leon Draisaitl for the league lead in goal scoring, which is ridiculous considering at one point I think he was 9 back. So insane for him to do that. Tavares has himself just a nasty shot that he scores on tonight, but all around weird game. I mean, you look at that second line, Nylander was dancing, Tavares finally scores. He kind of been quiet over the last little while. And one thing too, and I'll say this, and we don't even have to really get into it, but just before we get into our grades here, this was one of those games where, and not even just like a Leafs fan saying this, it's just a person watching hockey and who loves hockey in general. This is a game where you walk away from and just go, man, the officiating was horrible. And it was both ways. Like, both coaches genuinely hated the referees with everything they had tonight. And they had every right to. It was tough tonight.
There was no winner with the referees tonight. And Philly,
No.
I'll be honest, for anyone that obviously is familiar with our brand, I was for the majority of the night doing the live stream with the Raptors, but
Yeah.
I even saw some comments from people in the live. Someone wrote saying the refs in the Leafs game are going to make me jump off a cliff. So I just laughed and kind of passed by it. But so I got a live update that it was not some good officiating, and it sounds like both benches were frustrated.
Yeah, man, both ways. It was one of those ones where there's penalty called on the Leafs and you're going, okay, what? Or not penalty called on, like, towards for the Leafs, and you're wondering what's happening. And then there's ones where, I mean, obviously we're Leafs fans sitting here, but there's ones where St. Louis is getting, like, there should be a power play coming for them and they don't get one, and you're going, how? Or they get a penalty called against them and you're still wondering the same thing, like, how did that happen? It was just both sides. I genuinely walk away from it going, yeah, honestly, refs suck for both of us tonight.
Makeup calls do that. Are you a believer in makeup calls?
As in, do I think they happen?
Like, do you think it's a natural and proper way to officiate, or do you think you just got to call it as you see it?
That's a good question. I think it's a natural human element of the officiating, because I think no matter what, I think the referee walks away from a situation and they may go, "Ooh, I missed someone there. I got to make up for it." Just the mental part of it.
Wasn't it the Nashville game where the one I could be wrong here,
Yes,
but when
Tim
one
Peel.
ref was mic'd up, was like,
Yes, Tim Peel was
so
the
I just
one.
wanted to get Nashville a penalty.
Yeah. Well,
That was killer.
yeah, and that cost him his job. He was in the last
Yeah.
year of his career, but it ended up, unfortunately, for him, I guess, costing him his job. It's just the reality
He's
of the
not the only
situation.
one,
But
man.
yeah, it's the way she goes. But Goody,
Yeah.
let's get into our grades of the game before we wrap this thing up here. All right. I honestly I don't really know where to go with this one. I don't know if you saw my post game reaction against Arizona. It was the weirdest reaction I could have ever given. I was so like dumbfounded with what happened and that goddamn Vamelka goalie going off for 46 saves and putting
He
on
was
the
insane.
performance that he did. And I gave it a B. I think this is one where I got to give it a B minus, and we won the game. The reason I'm going to go with a B minus here is because this is the first time, honestly, I could ever factor this into a grade. Jack Campbell was bad. There was a bunch of goals that Jack Campbell would like to have back. And it's more than just, he let in a bunch of bad goals. It's more of the timing of the goals that he let in, he'd like to have back. So that's kind of where I go with that one. The defense in general, I mean, you're letting in 5 goals. Come on. I mean, we got to kind of tighten that down. We've been bad in third periods over the last stretch. That third period where you kind of let St. Louis jump out and jump ahead on you guys there early over this road trip. It's been bad in the third periods. Now, where the swing of this comes from is Matthews gets his goal in 10 consecutive road games. Ilya Mikheyev gets a goal. What is he, like 5 of his last 7 or 5 of his last 6 or something like that? I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but the guy's hot right now since coming back, which is absolutely ridiculous. Bunting getting back on the board, it's nice to see. Tavares scores a goal. Marner scores a goal. Like, there's a bunch of good things happening here that can lead to this team moving back in the right direction. I even think, to the weirdest extent, as much as I'm not a fan of this guy, Pierre Engvall played well tonight, and for him to come back after missing a couple is like, all right, you know what? This is a good injection back into this lineup, so I think we can kind of get some comfortability going here. And the other part of where I'm going to go with this, which honestly should probably push my grade higher, but I'm sticking firm at the B minus, is over this 4-game road trip, you take a point from Colorado, you win in Vegas, you lose in Arizona, but it really didn't even have much to do with our play. Let's be honest, it didn't. We just, Vamelka just... Yeah, like that's what happens.
Man, it happens. Yeah.
And then you go and you win tonight. So you've got 5 points of your possible 8 on a 4-game road trip right now, where you play against a couple good Western Conference teams. It's good to get wins, man. It's good to be able to walk away from those with 2 points.
It really is. Even when, it wasn't a perfect way to do it in a lot of different ways. Even when we were winning, we were kind of scratching our heads. And then when we were losing, we were scratching our heads. But when you look at the macro,
it's just constant head scratching.
It is. That's just being a Leafs fan. But this road trip especially. But I'm going to go ahead and I was close to giving it a B minus, but I got to give it a B just because, when you look at the macro view, this team's winning and it's doing well. And a lot of the things that have happened to them recently, a hot goaltender, as much as you can find ways to solve it, it really doesn't always represent your effort as the opposing team when you can't score many goals on them. Like, you can be getting quality opportunities. There is an element of puck luck. When a goalie heats up, it can single-handedly take over a game. I really appreciate the Leafs being able to remain level-headed, not only throughout the games, but in the individual games as well. And I'm more pointing towards what happened versus Arizona and as well as tonight, because tonight, like you said, you play in a bunch of different situations, but you stick with the process and you get the win. And I just think that, Campbell looked human tonight, but I almost like that. I almost like it because I don't want the guys having false comfort in a goaltender.
Yeah, it's almost a reality check to the team, right?
I agree, because think about it. We got that way with Freddie, and it always blew up in our faces when we tried to rely on him in big moments. Like, we got used to the regular season bailouts, and that it never materialized in the playoffs. Let's get bit and understand that you can have him not play the perfect game and still win. For me, it was like a reassuring confidence thing. And then Marner also doing his thing on the power play. I was happy to see that. stood out there and tried to say he should stay on there for at least a little longer, try to figure it out, right? Like this just happens. Like stay with your best player. You're not going to have him on off there for long anyways.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand on the game. I'm going to give it a B, but I think a lot of the criticisms you rose, I would also agree with.
Well, there you have it. Leafs win this one 6-5 in an absolute shootout against St. Louis. The boys go 2 for 2 on the night on our bets. Leafs over 3.5. Austin Matthews anytime goal scorer. So cash those ones in. Check this. Subscribe to this account for more bets that we place. I mean, at this point, if somebody went back and counted all the bets that we've had and added them all up, we're probably sitting close to 500. I wouldn't doubt at that point. But hey, we're not handing out these picks because we're experts. We're handing them out because it's fun to do, and we have gut feelings, and that's kind of what we're riding with. This is no statistical analysis of what's gonna happen. It's straight not gut feelings advice from the boys. Yeah. So go check those out. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to get notifications on those videos come out. We moved to 24-9-3 on the season with this win tonight. St. Louis was 12-1 in their last 13 games heading into tonight, so another good win against a pretty good Western Conference team. Matthews scores a goal. Marner scores. Nylander looks good. Tavares is on the board. Bunting gets back. Ilya Mikheyev has himself another. And most importantly, Timothy Liljegren scores his first NHL goal. So pretty good night all around for the boys. Our next game is Wednesday against the New York Rangers. Again, another road game. So hey, maybe Matthews can keep that streak rolling. But make sure you subscribe to this account so you can get notified when we're going live, when we got more videos coming out. And hey, maybe in the next little while we'll have a live stream talking about the All-Star game, some players that were selected, maybe some snubs that happened in the All-Star game, potentially how to fix the All-Star game. So if you want to see that, you want to hear that, make sure you come back to this channel, hit that subscribe button. Let us know your thoughts on tonight's game. Like and comment on this video. Leafs fans, we'll see you guys soon. Keep a Leafin'.
Signing off.